Here's a question that should make every Phillies fan either laugh or cry. What do you call a team that signs a pitcher who allowed 11 earned runs in 6.2 innings last season and calls it adding dynamism to the roster? Is this the kind of bold, innovative thinking that transforms a good team into a World Series champion, or is it the baseball equivalent of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic? Because let me tell you, folks, when your big off-season bullpen addition is a 29-year-old journeyman who gave up 4 home runs in barely 6 innings of work, you're either seeing something nobody else sees, or you're desperately hoping lightning strikes twice. The Philadelphia Phillies just announced they've reached an agreement with right-handed pitcher Zack Pop, and the reaction around the baseball world has been, let's call it, underwhelmed. This is a pitcher who bounced between the Mariners, Mets, and Cubs in 2024, appearing in exactly 5 major league games. 5. That's fewer appearances than most closers make in a single week during the regular season. But here's where it gets interesting. The Phillies didn't just sign Pop, they're throwing him into a spring training battle royale with 2 other non-roster invitees, Zach McCambley and Jonathan Bowlan, none of whom have minor league options remaining. This isn't just roster construction, it's organizational Hunger Games, and only the strong will survive. The stakes? Nothing less than the credibility of Philadelphia's entire bullpen reconstruction project heading into a season where anything less than a deep playoff run is considered failure. Let's not sugarcoat this, because the numbers are absolutely brutal. Zack Pop's 2024 season was a masterclass in how quickly a major league career can derail. 5 games, 6.2 innings, 11 earned runs allowed. That's an ERA of 14.85 if you're keeping score at home. That's not just bad, that's historically catastrophic. That's the kind of ERA that gets you designated for assignment before you can even unpack your locker. But wait, it gets worse. Pop surrendered 15 hits in those 6.2 innings, including 4 home runs. 4 home runs in essentially 6 innings of work means that every time Pop took the mound, there was a better-than-even chance someone was going yard. He struck out just 3 batters while walking 2, which means his command was non-existent and his stuff wasn't fooling anyone. The Mariners gave him a shot. He failed. The Mets, perpetually desperate for pitching, took a flyer on him. He failed again. The Cubs signed him and kept him in the minor leagues, where he posted a 4.19 ERA across 19.1 innings spanning from rookie ball to AAA. That's right, he couldn't even dominate at the lower levels. So, why on earth would the Phillies want him? That's the million-dollar question, and the answer lies in understanding what Pop was before 2024 turned into a nightmare. Because buried beneath that statistical carnage is a pitcher who once showed legitimate promise. Here's where we need to shift from the brutal reality of Pop's recent performance to the theoretical upside that has the Phillies intrigued. Pop's primary weapon is a sinker that averaged 96.4 miles per hour last season. That's not just good velocity, that's elite velocity for a sinker. When you can throw a heavy, sinking fastball at 96 to 97 miles per hour with late movement, you've got a pitch that can generate ground balls and weak contact at the major league level. Throughout his career, Pop has leaned heavily on that sinker, throwing it more than 50% of the time every year he's been in the big leagues. That kind of pitch usage tells you something. When it's working, it's his bread and butter. When it's not working, he's got nothing to fall back on. Pop also features a slider, and in 2024, added a cutter to his repertoire. He threw both the slider and cutter roughly 20% of the time last season, which suggests he was trying to diversify his approach and give hitters different looks. The problem? None of it worked. The sinker got hammered. The slider hung. The cutter didn't cut enough. But here's the critical insight. The stuff didn't disappear. Pop still has a 96 miles per hour sinker. He still has breaking balls with movement. What he lost was command, confidence, and the ability to execute his pitches in the strike zone. Those are fixable problems if you have the right coaching staff and the right developmental infrastructure. The Phillies believe they have both. They've successfully rehabilitated pitchers before. They have a strong analytics department that can identify mechanical flaws and prescribe fixes. They have a pitching coach in Caleb Cotham, who has earned a reputation for getting the most out of reclamation projects. The question Is Pop fixable, or is he broken beyond repair? Now, let's talk about the fascinating dynamic that makes this signing more interesting than it initially appears. Pop isn't being handed a roster spot. He's being thrown into a gladiatorial contest with two other pitchers, and the loser goes home. The Phillies have also signed Zack McCambley and Jonathan Bowlan, both right-handed pitchers with their own intriguing backstories. All three pitchers have one critical thing in common. None of them have minor league options remaining. This is huge. It means the Phillies can't send any of these guys to AAA to work on things or get more seasoning. They either make the opening day roster or they're designated for assignment. It's binary. It's brutal. And it creates the kind of high-pressure competition that either brings out the best in players or exposes their limitations. McCambley adds another wrinkle to this competition. He was selected in the Rule 5 draft, which comes with specific roster requirements. The Phillies must keep him on the Major League roster for the entire season, or they have to offer him back to the Miami Marlins. That's a significant constraint that could influence how the spring training competition plays out. Here's the scenario. If McCambley is guaranteed a roster spot due to Rule 5 restrictions, then Pop and Bowlan are essentially competing for one or two remaining bullpen spots. That's cutthroat. That's the kind of competition where every bullpen session matters, every simulated game is life or death, and every spring training appearance is an audition. Pop needs to be dominant. Not just decent, dominant. He needs to show that 2024 was an aberration, a nightmare he's woken up from. He needs to throw strikes, generate ground balls, and remind everyone why he was once considered a legitimate major league reliever. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture of the Phillies' bullpen construction, because Pop is just one piece of a larger puzzle that management is trying to solve. The Phillies have been aggressive this offseason in addressing their bullpen woes. They acquired Joan Duran at the trade deadline last July to serve as their closer. They signed Brad Keller to a 2-year deal after his impressive stint with the Cubs. They brought in Kyle Backus from Arizona to replace the departed Matt Strom. Each of these moves addressed a specific need and added a specific skill set. Now comes Pop, McCambley, and Bowlan, 3 non-roster invitees who represent high upside, low-cost lottery tickets. If one of them pans out, the Phillies suddenly have unexpected depth and flexibility. If all 3 flame out, it's a minor setback with minimal financial consequences. This is smart organizational strategy. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't overpay for mediocre relievers just because you're desperate. You cast a wide net, bring in multiple options, and let competition determine who deserves a roster spot. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The Phillies' bullpen has been their Achilles heel for years. They've watched playoff dreams die because their relievers couldn't hold leads in October. They've seen dominant starting pitching wasted because the 7th and 8th innings turned into home run derbies. Can Zack Pop, a pitcher who posted a 14.85 ERA in 2024, be part of the solution? Can he rediscover the form that made him a useful reliever earlier in his career? Or is this just another example of a team hoping that a change of scenery will magically fix fundamental problems? Let's dig into Pop's minor league numbers from 2024 because they provide some context that the major league stats don't. Pop made 20 appearances across multiple levels of the minors, from rookie ball to AAA. He posted a combined 4.19 ERA in 19.1 innings, striking out 23 batters while walking 8. That strikeout rate, nearly 11 per 9 innings, is actually encouraging. It suggests that when Pop is facing lesser competition, his stuff can still miss bats. The walk rate of 3.7 per 9 innings is less encouraging, but not disastrous. It indicates some command issues, but nothing catastrophic. The bigger concern is that 4.19 ERA, which suggests he was still getting hit hard even at lower levels. But here's the key question. Was Pop working on mechanical adjustments in the minors? Was he experimenting with new grips or arm angles? Minor league stats can be misleading if a player is using that time to make changes rather than just trying to dominate. We don't have that insider information, but it's worth considering. If Pop spent his minor league time in 2024 rebuilding his mechanics and developing that new cutter, then the mediocre results might be acceptable. If he was just trying to survive and couldn't, that's a much bigger red flag. In modern baseball, velocity is king. It's not everything, but it's the foundation upon which everything else is built. A pitcher who can throw 96 to 97 miles per hour has a chance. A pitcher who sits 91 to 92 miles per hour needs to be perfect with location and movement. Pop still has the velocity. That 96.4 miles per hour average sinker velocity is elite. It puts him in the upper echelon of major league relievers in terms of pure arm strength. When you combine that velocity with the natural sinking action of his primary pitch, you've got a weapon that should generate ground balls and weak contact. So, why didn't it work in 2024? The most likely explanation is command and location. Pop was leaving his sinker up in the zone where major league hitters can square it up and drive it. A 96 miles per hour sinker belt high is a batting practice fastball. A 96 miles per hour sinker at the knees is unhittable. The difference between success and failure in relief pitching often comes down to inches. Pop was missing his spots by inches, and major league hitters made him pay. The question is whether the Phillies coaching staff can help him find those inches again. Let's talk about something that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but matters just as much: the mental side of pitching. Pop has been through hell over the past year. He's been designated for assignment, claimed off waivers, released, and shuffled between 3 organizations. He's been told, in no uncertain terms, that multiple teams didn't believe he could help them win. That kind of professional rejection leaves scars. Relief pitchers need short memories. They need to be able to give up a home run on Tuesday and come back Wednesday with complete confidence that they'll dominate. Pop's confidence has to be shattered. How could it not be after the year he just had? This is where the Phillies' organizational culture matters. Do they have the infrastructure to rebuild a pitcher's confidence? Do they have sports psychologists and mental skills coaches who can help Pop work through the trauma of 2024? Do they have veteran players in the bullpen who can mentor him and help him rediscover his swagger? These are questions we can't answer from the outside, but they're just as important as mechanical adjustments or pitch development. Let's circle back to Zack McCambley and the Rule 5 draft complication, because it significantly impacts Pop's chances of making the roster. If McCambley is guaranteed a roster spot due to Rule 5 rules, that's 1 fewer spot available for Pop and Bowlan to compete for. The Phillies bullpen typically carries 7 or 8 relievers, and if you've already allocated spots to Duran, Keller, Backus, and McCambley, you're looking at maybe 3 or 4 remaining openings. Some of those spots will go to established veterans or pitchers with guaranteed contracts. That leaves maybe 1 or 2 spots for the non-roster invitees to fight over. Those are brutal odds. Pop needs to be the best pitcher in camp. He needs to outperform Bowlan and anyone else competing for those final spots. He needs to be so good that the Phillies have no choice but to put him on the opening day roster. Can he do it? Based on his 2024 performance, it seems unlikely. But baseball is full of redemption stories, and Pop has the raw stuff to be one of them. So, is Zack Pop the answer to the Phillies' bullpen prayers? Or is he just another name on a long list of failed reclamation projects? The honest answer: this is a calculated risk with minimal downside and potentially significant upside. The Phillies aren't betting the farm on Pop. They're giving him a non-roster invitation to spring training and letting him compete for a job. If he wins the competition, great. They've found a useful reliever at minimal cost. If he fails, they cut him and move on. There's no financial commitment, no long-term obligation, no risk. The upside? If Pop rediscovers even 75% of his earlier form, if he can harness that 96 miles per hour sinker and locate it consistently, he could be a valuable middle relief option. He could be the kind of ground ball specialist who gets out of jams and bridges to the late innings guys. But let's be realistic, the odds are against him. Pitchers who post a 14.85 ERA don't usually bounce back to become reliable major league relievers. The track record suggests Pop's best days are behind him. Still, the Phillies are right to take the chance. In a game of inches and probabilities, you maximize your chances by taking multiple shots on goal. Pop is one of those shots. If it doesn't work out, you've lost nothing. If it does, you found gold in the bargain bin. If this deep dive into the Phillies bullpen strategy has you thinking about the fine line between genius and desperation, smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. Is Zack Pop a diamond in the rough or just another piece of coal? Are the Phillies building a championship bullpen or just hoping something sticks? I want to hear from you because spring training is right around the corner and we're about to find out who was right.